Okay, guys, so you had a homework assignment, right?
Yes.
And it was about, we were getting into personal assessment. Part of it was, who are your heroes, right? And then the second question was, why, right? So you did all your homework, and so
Nice.
Sebastian, will start with you.
So my role, mine has to be my mother. This kind of sounds kind of cheesy because almost everyone, who's your role model? I'm my mother, my father,
Right.
aunt, grandma.
Right.
But for me, she's like the only person that I would consider a role model throughout my entire life because she's like,
So you might say there's other role models, obviously.
Obviously.
But she's the consistent one. Yeah.
because she was been there my entire
Right,
life. She's my
right.
mother.
Yeah.
But she's such a hardworking person. Like being my mother, she would always be my role model.
So we're getting into the why now. Why
Yes.
she's your role model.
Because, well, my mother, she has back problems. Just recently, she's been diagnosed with mild scoliosis.
Yep.
She, like, a bit of backbone is kind of like deteriorating.
Yep.
Yet she still works. She's a house mom. She doesn't work a full-time job. She still does the laundry. She still cooks. She still does everything like a regular person, yet she still has the pain.
Right.
I always tell her, just relax, let me do it,
Yep.
it. But she always refuses. No, let me continue on doing this. And she teaches me, that teaches me how to be hardworking in life, that hard work really does pay off in life, even in the worst or in the bad. In the worst or in the good.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Brendan,
so,
your turn.
Yeah, so I basically had the same
So
answer.
before so we talk about your heroes versus your role models. You're
Yes.
kind of seeing them to be one and the same, so to speak. Okay.
Because like I have the same, basically the same answer as Sebastian. In my opinion, my role model is my mom. But like I could see how other people might think of others, since like there are some cases where other, let's say, celebrities have like a good influence on
Yes.
other people.
Yep.
But for me, it's mainly my mom, mainly because of her work ethic and basically everything she did for us. She's known to be very selfless, and to add more things, she was a survivor of the Khmer Rouge, which was basically a ton of work. And my mom, my aunts, my uncles had to work in the fields, do whatever without anything in terrible conditions.
And how long ago was this? That was
The
what
Khmer.
year?
It was when it was when she was a child.
Yep.
But she managed to escape it. I guess you could say escape, since it ended around her mid-20s, and that's when she came over. And at this time, she didn't know any English or didn't know anybody. Yet she still managed to learn English,
Wow.
get a job, and then even allowed some other family members from back in Cambodia to come back here too. So just the fact that she started from nothing but managed to come and rise this far is something that I aspire to do. And even to this day, even though she has everyone else to rely on, she also tries to take the heavy burden of the load, just so that we have an easier time and are able to relax for once.
So the work ethic, as you mentioned, the
Yes.
fact of resilience, right, to do what she did. And she came with relatives. They managed to escape, you said?
Yes, basically.
Friends and relatives. Were many lost in that situation?
Yeah, definitely.
Were they family members or just friends or all
That
of the
much
above?
I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure, but I definitely know of a couple of friends that my grandpa did lose. But mainly, to sum it up, that work ethic and that overall attitude in life, even though she wasn't even given much, but managed to look past it and think optimistic, that's something that I want to do.
Yeah.
Since like I know there are some hard times, but I also want to basically do the same thing as she did, although to a less extent. I want to be
Okay.
there for my family when I grow up and just become that hero that she did to me.
That's interesting. So we talk, who are the heroes and why, and then we also mentioned here, what's the commonality, right? What do you have in common? It's kind of interesting. You said work ethic. You said work ethic. You're not going to cheat now because you know what the answer is, right? But it's kind of interesting that the issue of work has come up, right? Which is one of the characteristics of leadership, right? Work hard, the work ethic, right? The fact that resilience, which is, you kind of stick with it, right? Despite what the odds are, all right? These are all, we're going to be talking about these basic characteristics of what leadership is all about, right? And work ethic is certainly one of them. After this segment, we're going to get into attitude, which is also part of leadership, a very important part. But before we do that, Jose, you're next.
Yeah, so unlike my counterparts here, our answers are one and the same, but where I differ is my role model is my brother.
Now, is he older or younger?
He's older than me. He's 15 years my senior. So he basically lived my life before I was born. But,
So he's late 20s, early 30s?
he's just turned 30.
30.
Yeah, but he's my role model for many reasons.
Now, is he the only brother, sister? Is he?
Yeah, he's my only brother.
Yeah.
But he's just been my role model ever since I was a kid. Not big brother aspect wise, cause we didn't grow up together, but my father always kept us close, and just knowing where he came from. Like obviously I wasn't there when he was a child, but just I've been to his environment. I've went to his home, and I like seen the stuff he went through. And he lived in a duplex with 14 people and cousins, friends, all that. But like as going back as older now, I seen all the friends that he grew up with and all his family members, yet they're still stuck in that environment because they listen to the influences there. But him, he managed to beat the odds, and now he got a nice home, a wife. He has 2 kids. He has one, my nephew, and he has another kid on the way. Overtime addict. I mean, tremendous worker. He pushed beyond the limits, and he just escaped an environment which was moderate to accomplishing, and it just something that inspired me so much. Because I mean, my father's a hard worker, my mother's a hard worker. They all come from harsh conditions, but it's like when you have somebody that close to you, or somebody who just kind of just always is there for you and guides you along the way and tells you what he's been through. Because you can sit here and talk to your mom and dad and stuff, but they're always gonna give it to a perspective where, oh, I'm just looking out for you, or oh, like it's
a parent-child relationship, whereas your brother's the dialogue's a little different.
The dialogue is different.
Yeah.
You can say it's a lot more harsh in a way, but it's more realistic in a way where you understand it more. Your mind is able to digest it. And just talking to him, I feel I'm protected. I just want to be like him, if not exceed him. But he's just a tremendous person overall, and everything he's ever done for me, my family, just everybody around him, the aura he carries and stuff, just makes me want to be exactly like him.
Wow, that's great. Now we've talked about the issue of, as we grow up, being a product of your environment, right? And we discussed that, and we all have different environments we grew up in. What my background is, born and raised. My father was an immigrant. My mom was a working mom, and they couldn't speak the language and all of that, right? So we grew up like this, and then we talked about being a product of what your environment is. So that's kind of the early years of growing up. But the more important issue is, I'm going to kind of connect to what your brother did. So even though we're a product of our environment, more importantly, we're a product of that experience and what we do about it, right? And obviously your brother did something about it. And so that's absolutely critical. So, and obviously you mentioned hard work as the other two did. And so for some reason, hard work, the work ethic always gets into these conversations, because I think that's one of the critical ingredients, right? As you evolve. We talked about, in previous sessions, we talked about the inflection points, right? And I had 3 inflection points in my life. One was my 6th grade, as you remember, my 6th grade math teacher patting me on the back saying that I was gifted in math. It's the first time anyone patted me on the back and reinforced that academically I had some redeeming qualities. And then going to Cardinal Hayes High School, right, which is all Hallows. I know they were competing schools, they still are, right? So I went to Hayes, and that was an inflection point, and probably more than that, it was probably a game changer in the sense that it provided me with a forum and such discipline that I could learn, all right? So my Cardinal Hayes is your All Hallows, right? And I know you don't take this for granted, but it's somewhat privileged that you're here and you're getting a great education. And then my 3rd inflection point was my cousin Raymond, who you remember, first generation American, Harvard, Rhodes Scholar, Fulbright scholar to Italy, economics, and then came back, Columbia Law School, became a deputy counsel for Fortune 500 company. First, couldn't speak the language, parents came from Italy. The stories go on and on, right? So what we're teaching here in leadership is that it's all possible. It takes a work ethic. It takes a lot of integrity. It takes being a role model. It's all of these characteristics that we discussed. Now, the interesting thing is, so I have 3 inflection points. They happen. Now, you're all, what age? Give me 14, 15, 16. Okay. So this happened to me when I was 12. The first inflection point, which was the math teacher patting me on the back. And then the third inflection point, which was my cousin, that was at the age of 16, and then Connell Hayes was in between. So within a 4-year period, those inflection points made the entire difference in my life. 4 years. So if you take an 80-year lifespan, 4 years is what, 5%? Right? 5%. So 5% of my 80 years, if that becomes my lifespan, those were the 3 inflection points that made a difference in my life, and it was all within a period of 5% of my total lifespan. 4 years. Think about that. So what it says now is that these years are absolutely critical, right? These are the formative years, right? High school, all right? These are the make or break, right? Now, that's not to say if you don't have any inflection points and you move on, that ultimately you can't be successful. And by the way, we define success. We don't define it quantitatively, right? We define success as what?
Qualitative, like how you live your life, what things you learned.
Right, qualitatively, right, not quantitatively, right. It's success, we define success to be all you can be as an individual. So you maximize who that person is, right? So how much you earn and what type of house, vacations and all this stuff is great, but we don't define success. We don't use that as a metric to define success, right? It's being all you can be as a person.
Yeah, you mentioned how success, it's about us being the best that we ourselves can be.
Right.
Like, even though we may not make as much money as other people can, as long as we're happy and doing the best as we can, then that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
It's attitude.
It's attitude.
You have to have
we're going to get into attitude next.
And you have to have a really great personality as well.
Yes.
Because what's the point of having so much money, so much materialistic things in your life, but everyone hates you because because you treat everyone on
Which gets us back to the handshake and the smile, right? That's what it's all about.
I think just all around being successful is just you as an individual, being the person that you are, how you carry yourself, and I feel success is having enough to give back and still be stable on your own, and still be fine with doing for others and not having to worry about yourself.
Right. And the issue of being all you can be, whatever it is that you're doing it for yourself, not for someone else, right? And so we want to make our parents proud of who we become eventually, whatever the case may be. But the more important issue is you're doing it for yourself, right? You don't want to be doing it for, other people expect this of me. You have to want to do it for yourself, right? That's what's key. Okay, I think that finishes this segment, which is kind of the heroes, the role models, the why. Anything else you might want to add to that, or?
No, I think we covered everything.
Okay, all right. So we're going to move on to the next session is going to be on attitude.